Everyone, thank you for coming out. I think it should be a pretty cool presentation. And then I think we have everyone here, but then if anyone joins in late, then I'll be more than happy to just let them in. So right now we're going to be talking about, so we have a representative from EWB-Purdue here. So welcome, Harish. We're happy to have EWB-Purdue present as well. So the current plan for what we're thinking about for this meeting is that we're going to go ahead and present about UC's chapter, kind of talk through our operations, our projects, and kind of just us in general. And then we'll have Q&A for our chapter. So if anyone's interested in that or popping out after that, you feel free to pop in and out as you please. And then we'll go over and hand over to Harish. So he can talk about EWB-Purdue and kind of all the stuff he does there. I'll do a brief introduction before we get started. My name is Nabil. I'm the current president of EWB-UC. I'm a fourth year environmental engineering student here, obviously at UC. And then I've been involved with the chapter since I first set foot on campus. So I was our Burari project lead for 2 years. And then this is also my second year as president. So super happy, super passionate about the organization. And then as we have different people come up and present, I'll have them introduce themselves when they come up and speak, just so we're not stuck going in a circle. And then we can kind of go from there. We have a lot of really cool people on the call. So Jackie O'Brien, EWB-USA's CEO. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone, I think that would be super cool.
Hi all. Yeah, Jackie O'Brien here with EWB headquarters, serving as CEO right now. And I'm so excited about this. And my most sincere apologies. Had planned to come in person and managed to break my leg last week. So I'm sitting here with my cast on, behaving. But thank you for inviting us, and super excited to hear more from everybody.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. Even if it is just remote, we're so happy to have you out here. And then we also have Mark Miller, our current REIC, and then our mentor for the past 10 years now. If you want to say hi, Mark.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't really know what to have you say. Jim Tappel, he's our current faculty advisor, also a super cool guy. I went to Tanzania with him in 2019, built a water system, very fun times. And then also, last notable mention, we have Dean Albrecht. So she's the current assistant dean for our CAS, our College of Engineering here at UC as well. So we're super pumped to have everyone on. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, then we can go ahead and get started. All right, awesome. And then if there's any if there's any technical issues, you guys can't hear me or see my screen, just don't be afraid to speak up and say something, and then we'll go ahead and get started from here. So yeah, we're Insurance Law Borders, the University of Cincinnati chapter. Building change is what we've been saying a lot. And then we're also established around 2004 to like 2006. It gets kind of iffy depending on when you count when the capstone started, but we've been around for a while. And then kind of the mission statement for anyone who hasn't seen EWB, it's the same as EWB-USA, for everyone who hasn't seen it. We're building a better world through engineering projects that empower communities meet their most basic human needs and equip leaders to solve the world's most pressing challenges. So the way we kind of see that as an organization is that even though we're addressing super cool problems, tackling amazing things in Tanzania and across the world, even domestically, we're also very passionate about what do we get back to our students, what do students gain out of spending all their free time with EWB, or what do students gain from traveling with us as well. So looking at our team, we have a very large executive board for an EWB chapter, but the way we set this up is to provide more pathways to more demanding leadership roles. So kind of having someone come in as a social and recruitment chair, or having someone come in as a committee chair kind of lets them build up to being a VP, being a VP or even president one day. And it's also kind of allows us to spread the load because we're all engineering students. We all have a whole lot of free time. So it really helps us be able to delegate stuff out. And also people who aren't on the org chart, we have Mark Miller, REIC, so resident engineer in charge. He approves all of our engineering drawing sets and then also kind of guides us through designing engineering systems because we're still students. Sharon Greenberg, she's also one of our main mentors. We have EWB-GCP, so the Greater Cincinnati Professional Chapter. We're really close to them. We still go to their monthly meetings. And then if we have any questions or anything like that, they're more than happy to pop in and out and then help us with anything we need. And also, we have a lot of really cool alumni in our organization. We've been around so long. So we love to have alumni come back. A lot of alumni come back as mentors to speak about their experience or also go and help us with more technical things. So even from a CAD design to irrigation design to anything at all, we have a bunch of really cool mentors that love to come help us out. And then kind of looking at how our organization is split up, we do a lot of stuff with our operations side. So fundraising, social recruitment, PR, which is managing our Instagram, stuff like that. Banquet planning, which is big fundraisers for the end of the year. Then we also have projects as kind of our other side of things. And then both the VPs, the VP of operations, the VP of projects are going to talk as well to share more about our organization. Rachel. Then we're going to swap out VPs as they present.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Moad. I'm a fourth year in chemical engineering, and I'm one of our VP of operations. So when you think about Engineers Without Borders, a lot of people think that we mostly do work internationally, but we also do a lot of work locally and throughout the Cincinnati area. One of the things that we focus on is our high school outreach. So we partner with different high schools in the area to teach them both about what type of engineering is and what our students can do while they're on our co-op or our internships and what they can look forward to once they get to college. And we also work with them on designing smaller projects that we can use out in Tanzania, which we'll touch upon later when we get to the project section. But our ones that we've worked on with them are hand washing stations. So we help guide them through the entire engineering process and troubleshoot and go through prototyping with them to help them get ready for their future at college and in life. Other things that we do is we work with our College of Engineering and Applied Science summer camps. Here we speak to a bunch of the first years as well as the high school seniors who are either admitted or are looking towards going to college here at University of Cincinnati. Like I said, we also like to give back to the community that we're in. So we do a lot of projects within Cincinnati. Typically, we do 1 to 2 community service events a month. Sometimes these are Habitat for Humanity builds. We go out to the sites that are in Cincinnati that we can work on and help build the houses that are there. We also do trash cleanups around the parks and the neighborhoods in Cincinnati. We worked at food pantries and soup kitchens in the past, as well as this year, we're going to be helping with the Flying Pig Marathon as some of their course guides. And then we also travel around the United States with Habitat for Humanity Collegiate Challenge. We typically do this around 2 to 3 times a year. We do this when we're in our breaks between our semesters. So whatever break that we have, the students will give up that week and then go volunteer wherever help is necessary. So wherever they don't have a lot of volunteers to come out and build the houses, sometimes we go somewhere in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. It just depends on where we're able to get to and help out for that week. And then the last kind of major thing on the operations side is we like working on professional development as well as our fundraising. So for the professional development side, we like to build leadership experience like Nabil touched upon. We have a lot of roles on our exec board and we like being able to move people up throughout the entire organization. So mentoring them in that way. And then we also have a mentorship program that helps our first and second years get adjusted to college as well as anything that they would need help in without their time. We've hosted mock interview events. So for people who aren't at UC, we have a career fair actually this week for our first and second years to go out and get co-ops or internships. And we hosted a mock interview night. So this will get all of their nerves out and get them ready and prepare them for these. So they're not as anxious as some people would be if they didn't have something like this. And then we also host guest speaker series, whether that be in leadership or professional development, but also in building technical skills from CAD and many of the other technical things that we use throughout our work. For the fundraising side, we have really one main large scale fundraiser, which is our banquet. For this, we do silent auctions, trivia nights, and there's a lot of other things that go into it. And then we also have small scale fundraisers that we work on, whether that be with our merchandise or that we're selling, or just having small fundraisers at local restaurants who will donate some of the proceeds to us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine. I am our current Vice President of Projects, and I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the international projects we have going on. So looking at the history of our chapter, we started kind of with our first project in 2006. That was our Otho water project, and that was in Kenya. After we wrapped up that project, we moved into Tanzania. The rest of our projects are all in Tanzania. So you can see kind of our first project after that was our Niambogo water project. So staying with water, but this time in Tanzania. And then at the same time, we also started a structures project building a school in the community of Burere. After we finished up the Nyambogo water project in that Burere school building, Burere also requested a water project. So we started on a water project for them. And then in Nyambogo, there was a lot of need for sanitation work. So we started a sanitation project there. So as we were working in these two communities, Roche, which is a nearby community, heard about all the work we were doing and requested a water project as well. So that's kind of one of our younger, newest water projects. And then just very recently, we've started a phase 2 of the Nyambogo water expansion, building and expanding that original system that we wrapped up in 2016. So going through all the projects a little bit more in detail. So this is Okwabueo in Kenya. So of course, this was our first water project and it is currently closed. We closed out the project in 2008, but it serves about 1,000 people. In this community, there was an existing borehole, but just a foot pump. So we added in a solar powered submersible pump and then created 2 storage tanks, which you can see in the pictures, as well as a gravity fed distribution system throughout the community. Next, we have Nyambogo. So Nyambogo is the community that we've been involved in the longest. These projects serve about 8,000 people. So our initial water project here went through the entire source development. So we actually worked with the community to have a borehole drilled, which you can see on the top picture. And then from there, built in the storage tanks and a gravity fed distribution system. So far, this system has served over 14.6 million liters of water. Right now, what we're doing is the phase 2 of this project, which is going to build a pressurized system to expand to 4 additional communities. And we're expecting that will expand the beneficiaries to an additional 4,000 people. And kind of in between, when we wrapped up the phase 1 of the water project and phase 2, we also had a sanitation project where we built latrines and hand washing stations at the local schools. So the next project that our community we were involved in was in Burere. So these projects are serving about 3,500 people. Here, this is kind of our structures project that the committee has done. So you can see the Burere schoolhouse in the middle picture, and that's a schoolhouse for about 120 kids. And then we also have a water distribution system. So in this community, there was a borehole that was abandoned. So our chapter came in, we set up pumping and solar power, as well as storage tanks and a distribution system that supplies community centers, a school, and also a clinic that's in the area. So for this system, it's a little bit younger. So we just have 5.1 million liters of water to date. And we're just getting ready to do our last phase of the system where we'll add in an expansion to serve about 1,000 more people. Okay, and then our youngest system is going to be in Roche. So this came kind of, we work with partners, which I'll touch on in a second, that have a health clinic there. And they had a well and some water distribution to the clinic, but not to the community. So we came in and we built that distribution system that supplies 4 schools in the area and also the nearby communities by those schools. And right now with this project, we're working on updating some agreements between the different community groups so that we can increase the sustainability of the system moving forwards. So all of those projects definitely couldn't be done without our partners. So of course, our biggest partners are the communities themselves. So we have citizen committees in each of those 3 communities that request new projects and also manage all of the operation and maintenance of all the existing projects that are currently operating. Those citizen committees work really closely with an organization called SHED, which is the Shradi Health Education and Development Foundation, which is the local Tanzanian-based NGO that we work with. They're really experts on the communities and really help us with a lot of our collaborative funding and planning. And then our other big partner is Village Life, and this is a Cincinnati organization that works to promote life, health, and education in the same communities that we work in. So we really work with them a lot on the life side, and they help us a lot with our communication between the communities and planning.
Yeah, and then going back to this kind of the second half of our organization, the impact that we have on our students here on campus, which I think is also pretty cool. So I think the coolest thing that is with EWBs that even though our name is Engineers Without Borders, we do a lot of stuff that's not direct engineering. So working with communities, doing community partnerships, a lot of, obviously when we go at a trash pickup, you aren't really an engineering degree to pick up trash, you just want to go help out the community, which is awesome. So technical design is only part of what we do. Right now, we're starting a new partnership based out of our College of Business called the Business Development Team. So 2 to 3 students this semester are going to be working with the entrepreneurship program within the college, the Linder College of Business, developing business plans for organizations, so kind of showing long-term, what's like our fundraising goals, how can we increase our fundraising, and also how do we manage EWB as a more structured organization, as a really cool resource to pass down. And also involving students from across campus. So we have accounting students, marketing students, actuary students. And the reason why I included this picture is because only 4 people in those pictures are engineering students. We have a criminal justice major, we have a nursing major, we have an architecture major, and a pre-med major. So lots of really cool stuff. We are not just engineers, which I think is probably the coolest part of our organization. And then also our impact on students. So last semester, we made a survey going out to, I think it was about 40 students within our organization. And then we were just kind of asking, basically, what have you gotten out of EWB so far? So UC is a really cool program because we're required to do 5 co-ops during our time at UC. So it's basically right after your freshman year, you're working a semester and then co-op and then going back to classes a semester. So as an organization, we get direct feedback on how being a student at EWB is benefiting others. So we asked basically how does being in EWB affect your technical design skills, communication skills, leadership skills? And I think we got some pretty cool results. So our first bar chart on the left is asking how skills learning need to be prepared students for co-op, not just technical skills, but all those leadership and organizational skills as well. We asked them to rank it from 1 to 5, from no influence to greatly prepared me for co-op. And then obviously most of the respondents that we got were pretty, I mean, a lot of greatly prepared me for co-ops. A lot of said some skills transferred and a lot within that kind of middle region, which is pretty cool because it's saying directly what we're learning here as students on campus, and we can go and take apply to our co-ops. And also EWB in the co-op hiring process. So only a couple people said EWB wasn't mentioned at all. Those might be our nursing students or something. The survey was anonymous, so I couldn't go back and check, but a lot of people say that EWB was a key hiring discussion point. So it helps give students something to talk about in their co-ops and those interviews, and also kind of helps them get a more competitive edge in the co-op search compared to all of our other students. And then half of everyone said EWB was mentioned in the hiring process, like in passing or like kind of explaining what it was, more kind of like in passing, just like only like briefly touching over in the subject, which I think is cool. We did the survey last semester and we didn't really have a good spot to share the information. So I think this would be a pretty cool time as well. And then also when we, in that same survey, we had people kind of write like, what the question was, what did you get out of EWB, or like kind of like what's EWB's impact on you? So this is a word bubble from what people said. People is the main one, real world experience. You can see friends, experience, interviews, engineering skills. So lots of really cool stuff that people think about our organization. And then I also thought this was probably one of the coolest little things, just kind of putting together the impact that we've been having on people. And that's the end of our presentation. So if anyone has any questions about our chapter, what we do, or anything more specific, this is a great time to open the floor. Or if anyone has any questions more specifically for Jackie about our chapter, we can also ask that as well, and then we'll hand over to Purdue.
Hey, it's Jackie. I just gotta say, congratulations. That's phenomenal. I've got a whole list of kind of notes, questions, points, and everything here, but maybe just a couple of comments. So one of the things is a big part of our strategic plan was this idea of going deep. And I love that you've taken all of the work that you've done over the years and you've managed to really build those relationships with the communities and expanded on that, going deeper within the communities and finding adjacent communities. I mean, I think that's huge. It's one of our big drivers in what we know we can do to be successful. The other thing I'll point out is you brought up the other half of the mission, the whole idea of building leaders, and also that it's not just about engineering. So I want to ask a question about that, because that's something that, you know, it's a message that we've been talking about, but you guys have really managed to kind of embrace that, reach out to the business school, get all of those skill sets that's needed to make projects successful. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like and what led you to go ahead and kind of pursue that direction?
Yeah, so I think a lot of incorporating all those different people is just like, oh, my roommate's a nursing major and we're doing cool stuff, or like, oh, we need someone else for this trash pickup. So it's just kind of people pulling in their roommates. And then when those roommates got pulled in or those friends got pulled in, it was kind of like, the first question would always be like, do I need like to know like hydraulic design in order to contribute to the org? And then we're like, not really. Most of what we do is in hydraulic design. So we kind of started roping in people that way. And then when it comes to reaching out to the business organization, we kind of reached out to a lot of people, a lot of like lukewarm responses, or a lot of responses like, oh, we should ask this person instead. But we just kind of kept tapping the door. And then when we approached the entrepreneurship program, we're kind of like, this is specifically what we want to grow. This is what we've been working on. But as engineering students, we kind of need a bit more help. And then once we kind of had that process started, we started asking the right questions after a few years of asking the wrong questions, and it came to like the business side of things. We got our foot in the door, and then we've been expanding pretty rapidly since. So that business development team, it was just started at the very beginning of the semester. And then just because we got introduced to the right people. So we're slowly like networking our way throughout the college or throughout the university itself. It kind of expanding from there. So it's not really a set path. We just keep talking to people and knocking on doors, and then some people are answering and then building us up from there.
Well, congratulations. That's a huge step forward. So really, really well done. And it'll be exciting to see how far it goes.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, hopefully it'll be a couple years thing and we can really build it up, but it's still in the baby stages right now, but we're super excited about it, and then we'll see where it goes. All right, well, if there's no other questions about us, then we'll go ahead and head over to EWB Purdue, and then we'll let you guys go ahead and present.
Perfect. I guess I'm having a little trouble sharing my screen. It says I'm disabled as a participant. I don't know if there's a way on your end to fix that.
Do you want to try again now? I think I just turned it on.
Sure. Yeah, we're good.
All right, sounds good.
All right, let me know if that worked out for everyone.
You're all good from our end.
All good, perfect. All right, hello everyone, it's great to be here. My name is Harish Raman. I'm the chapter treasurer for the Purdue University chapter of EWB. Great presentation, Nabil, in your chapter. I was really interested in a lot of that stuff, and I think after my presentation, I might have some more questions for you. So that was a pleasure, glad to be here, and I'll sort of get into what we're doing. So EWB Purdue is basically a twofold organization here at Purdue. In one sense, of course, we're a chapter of EWB-USA, and we're a student organization. On that side of things, we are made up of 6 different design teams, 3 of which are technical and 3 of which are more operational. The operational teams include the executive team, which I'm on as treasurer. We have the business development team, which has been around in our chapter for about 4 years. And then we have a new member team. The new member team is something that we recently decided in probably the last 4 or 5 years to incorporate into our chapter to facilitate the transition from new members to a project member. We found that there was a lot of lost time in the transition from a brand new member into a fully functional project member. And there was a lot of stress and overwhelmed members coming in with feeling that they did not have a lot of knowledge to be comfortable doing real work. So we have a new member team led by an experienced member every semester, where those who are interested in joining the chapter will basically go through an orientation program for a full semester, where they're guided step by step through things like Volunteer Village and our old all our old designs and our file system and how our chapter operates, so that they feel fully comfortable and can be quickly integrated the next semester into a full project team. In terms of our technical teams, we split the work into structures, construction, and water. There is definitely some overlap in terms of the workload with those 3 teams, but for the most part, they are as they're named. Construction handles a lot of the cultural aspects as well, especially in the phase we're in right now, which I'll talk about in the coming slide. In total, we have about 35 current members, as well as 18 incoming new members. With some turnover, we're hoping to stay above around 45 members or so next semester once those new members are fully integrated. Our current project is a water supply project based in Rubona, Rwanda, and I'll get much more into detail with that in the coming slides as well. As well as being a student organization, though, we're also partnered with the EPICS program here at Purdue. And EPICS is basically a service-based design course, predominantly for engineering projects, which basically lets engineering students and other students work on real projects with real stakeholders. A lot of these are local, sometimes they're throughout the country, and a couple are international, including ours. Because of this, we get a lot of different resources from the EPICS program, some of which include, advisors and, faculty mentors, as well as graduate student teaching assistants who attend all of our weekly meetings. These are a great resource to just keep us organized, keep us on track, and of course, provide a lot of different, technical and non-technical advice. One notable fact about our chapter in that vein is that we are the first chapter in the nation to receive class credit for the work that we do, which is something we're proud of and definitely feeds into a level of accountability that we have for our students. Definitely something that we've enjoyed and makes everything more functional, and we move a lot faster with our work because of it. So moving a little further into our actual project, our goal is to develop a water distribution system in Rubona, Rwanda that provides the community with safe access to clean water. So in this project, we are partnering with a community-based organization called Chase a Better Tomorrow. They are representing the entire community of Rubona and are made up of community members, particularly women and girls who, their goal is to basically improve educational and employment outcomes for members of the community, especially women and girls. Another partner that we're working with, of course, is our NGO partner, that's Integrated Development Action Rwanda. We've been in good contact with them very recently and are looking forward to working with them in the coming years. As a bit of a timeline for where our chapter is at right now, in fall 2017, we adopted a project in Colchachada, Bolivia. That was a water supply project, and that carried through for 4 years. We did have an unexpected closeout of that project in November 2021, a couple of months ago. The reasons for that predominantly were community circumstances. They had a lot of different changing demographics in the community, including a lot of people leaving to pursue employment outside the community area, as well as just a general trend in aging. And because of that, it was not going to be a feasible project for them to sustain and to fund. In addition, some of the water sources we found were not suitable, and we needed to tap into some other sources, and that would have extended the timeline as well as the cost of the project. So that was definitely a challenge for us in November to kind of grasp with that decision that the community made to end the partnership. And we worked pretty hard to reflect on that and take all the lessons we can from that and make a decision on adoption, which eventually we did make a decision in December to move forward with project adoption rather swiftly. This is, the result of different conversations with our leadership members and our mentors, that the best way for us to utilize the resources and experience that we had would be to apply lessons from the previous Bolivia project into a new project and utilize a lot of our designs that we were already preparing for Bolivia. Because of that, in May 2022, we are pushing for a potential assessment trip to the community of Rubona. We are currently working on the assessment pre-trip plan as a result, as well as some trip logistics and budgeting. So as a little bit of a background on the community we're working in, again, it's called Rubona. It is in the rural highlands outside Kigali, Rwanda, which is the capital of the country. There are many clusters of homes along the Yanzi River, which is, these clusters make up the community itself. There's about 1,100 people, and With the current data that we have, we're estimating about 250 households, but as we just adopted this project 2 months ago, we are still yet to confirm the exact number of households, but that is to be done rather soon. The community is made up of subsistence farmers who mostly focus on bananas, cassava, potatoes, avocados, and more. And there are other small trades as well, which kind of make up the economy of the area, but for the most part, their livelihood revolves around these crops. So these challenges are sort of what the community faces in terms of water and water access. One of the most common challenges that communities in need of water access face is the long walks to obtain the water, which culturally heavily affects women and girls in this community. Because of this, there's a lack of education and employment and a low high school graduation rate for young girls in the community. And therefore that translates to a lack of employment rate among women and overall insufficient economic activity in the area compared to the alternative. There's also an issue of contamination, partially because they basically obtain water from two different sources. There's a spring in the mountains, and there's the river seen in the picture on the right. The spring in the mountains is often used as a water source to supply drinking water, and while it's a longer walk, it is often much less contaminated than the river. The river is sometimes used as a drinking water source as well for those too far away from the spring, which is a very major issue, and that's something we definitely want to address. Sediments and livestock are often reasons for contamination in the spring, which is an unprotected spring in the mountains, of course. Of course, these challenges result in a lot of waterborne disease and high rates of mortality among the community. And that's definitely a trend we see across different communities in need in the world. So I wanted to share this slide sort of as a highlight of something that really worked in our chapter. What we found is that there was, especially in the early stage of a project, even the geography of where we're working and the relation of where the community is in terms of everything around it was something that people found quite hard to grasp. Our previous project was located in Bolivia in South America, in the Andes Mountains. And by the end of that project, it was clear to some of us that there was still a difficulty in kind of understanding the context geographically and where that project was. So what we've been really emphasizing as a leadership team is things like this, where we'll show the context of Rwanda on the continent of Africa, and then we'll kind of show the outline of Rwanda, to the east of Lake Kivu by Goma, and to the west of Lake Victoria, which is a well-known lake. And then we'll zoom in a little more. Kigali is outlined in red over here, very central in the country. And our community is in the northwest area of Kigali. You can see Kigali to the southeast in this picture, and the red pin represents our community. So things like this, and using Google Earth as a tool in presentations for our chapter, have been really effective in kind of nailing down the location and the context and the topography of the area, which then informs their ability to make, more informed cultural, write more informed cultural questions for the community and understand, what the walk might be like a little more. Zooming in a little more, I'll run through a quick map of what we're looking at right now as a proposed system. This is a map shared with us by the community and the NGO as a very preliminary proposal of the system. In yellow is a proposed pipeline route. The spring is seen to the north and at a relatively high elevation. So this would, as of now, be a gravitational system from our understanding, but there might be some pumps involved depending on, assessment data that we receive in the next couple months. There are going to be 3 communal tap stands. This is something that we understand the community prefers as of now based on cost and ease of access, but that's something we'll see if they want any more direct access or in other areas. Their livelihood is based on the Yangtze River, which runs in blue through the community, and their clusters of homes are located conveniently along the river. So we want to make sure that the tap stands are located in convenient areas for the community, and if communities are too far from these tap stands to the point at which they need to drink water from the river, as they have potentially been doing before, then that is definitely a concern for us, and we want to make sure that we're looking into that. So I wanted to go into just some of our general successes and challenges that we've faced throughout this semester, especially. One of which is our email communication with our NGO. What we found is email has been a really effective way of receiving information from our NGO, and we've been really impressed with the contact we've had with IDA Rwanda over email. That's something that actually changed from our previous project, which did not have as effective email communication, and therefore the ability for us to receive information was much more intermittent with that project. And our chapter is really now has an emphasis on establishing strong communication over email, or things like WhatsApp as well. It just provides a completely different level of access to our NGO partner, and therefore it enables us to receive information in a much shorter time frame, especially if that information is urgent to the week's work for a certain team. In addition, something that we've really emphasized recently is student engagement. We've been holding monthly meetings for our chapter to focus on things like engineering ethics and cultural awareness, especially starting a new project. We found cultural awareness being really important. These events serve to bring students together outside of our traditional project environment, where it's often quite chaotic, or teams are potentially closed off on certain days doing much more technical work. And it serves to bring teams together and create an environment where people are more willing to approach other teams, for example, and ask questions, approach our leadership team and ask questions, and of course, learn a lot about Rwandan culture, and create a more informed chapter in the process. In addition, we have been applying a lot of different lessons from our previous project in Bolivia. Closeout was definitely a challenge for our chapter, especially an unexpected closeout, and it created a lot of frustration for some people, and that we had to work through, of course. We found that reflecting on the work that we've done in a positive light after kind of understanding the community's reasons for ending the partnership was really effective. And what we've done is basically reached out to different teams and different leadership members to obtain different things that we should change moving forward. Organizing our questions for our NGO internally enables us to have much more streamlined communication with them, and making sure that every team, if they have a question, knows where to put it and when it'll get answered, things like that. A lot of logistical things that we wanted to change, especially with communication internationally across time zones. We've applied those lessons, and it's been really effective. Finally, as part of the EPICS program, something that we've benefited from is a twice a semester design review presentation. I think these are really effective because EPICS provides us a lot of resources to meet with industry professionals and our former chapter members who are now professionals. We've met with representatives from Caterpillar and Microsoft and Rolls-Royce, and we get a lot of feedback from an outside perspective on our project. And most recently, last week, we got a lot of great human-centered design feedback on certain elements to consider that we would not have even thought of. One of these that stuck out in my mind was the potential that developing a water system might affect people in the area who have made it, their source of employment to collect water for families. And that's something that I found super interesting personally. If people are in the current situation, getting paid to collect water for certain families and travel those far distances, that might be affected by us implementing a system. And that's something we would have to consider and, not only prevent conflicts, but make sure that, people like that are still being supported once that is not a feasible source of employment. I'll run through some of the challenges that we faced as well. Verbal communication is something that we're just trying to make more consistent. There's a lot of scheduling and time difference issues that we're still working through, and it helps that email has been a great tool for us, and we're working through that. But definitely something that we found is probably more challenging than expected to make that first established contact and regularly meet and discuss things verbally over video calls. Of course, planning travel amid COVID. I'm not sure what exact stage UC is in terms of potential trips in the future, but as I mentioned, we're planning on a potential assessment trip in the coming months, and of course, there's a lot of uncertainty with that. Finally, in terms of fundraising, we've sort of been in a position where we're trying to shift from a previous model to a more diversified model of fundraising. We've been looking at expanding our corporate outreach and reaching out to small companies, not only in our area, but who have a vested interest in water projects or sustainable water bottles, for example, things like that. Trying to diversify who we're reaching out to in hopes of one of these strategies being effective. In addition, we're looking at some more unique tailored events to our chapter that could be used as a fundraising tool and potentially paired with crowdfunding engagement. We did a lot of brainstorming so far, and it's definitely been a challenge to find something that would, one, be effective, and two, be something that we're proud to put our name on as a unique event on campus. I think that's one of the challenges of being on a very large campus with a lot of student organizations. We're still navigating, what our niche would be in that fundraising event market per se on our campus. But, I heard a lot of good ideas from your presentation about your local outreach and things like that. So definitely things I'm going to take back to our team. That's all I've got. I hope that was informative, and I definitely learned a lot from the UC presentation. So Nabil, I'll defer to you on how you want to do this, but I'm open to take questions or have a discussion if that's in the cards.
Yeah, of course. I think going back to one of your first slides, talking about having a committee just for incoming members and stuff like that is something that there's been a lot of talk of in our chapters, because we're experiencing the same problems. People were like, oh yeah, I go to this committee meeting, and then people sit down and it's like very overwhelming, because especially like our projects have been going on for 8 years. So it's kind of like, it's hard to absorb 8 years of history plus what's going on,
right,
plus try and benefit. So it's definitely overwhelming for some people, and that's something we're actually planning and looking forward to enacting in the fall. So we might be reaching out to you about that. Then going back to international travel, we're tentatively looking at August travel, but like we have a go-no-go date set for April 15th. And then as of right now, we don't think that's going to hit. So then we're looking maybe being able to travel again in January or some time later. So what we can really benefit from is that our VLOP, the Cincinnati-based NGO, NGO that we've been partnering with, we have a really great repertoire with them. They are able to send over people, so we can still go get face-to-face interaction with the community, just it's not with one of our students. And then we've also had Mark go in the past when we couldn't go. So Mark is an invaluable resource to us, especially when it comes to going deep. Mark's been involved in these projects since day one. So it really helps because we're only here for 5 years. So Mark is also a great asset for us, just as someone who's constant, someone that our people knows, like, oh, like it's Mark. Or we've had trips where people are like, oh, where's Mark? How come he's not on this trip? I'm like, okay, he'll come on another one. So another great resource for us. And if anyone has any questions or like just general discussion, I think now would be a good time for Purdue, for UC, for anything, or for Jackie at all. If any of the EWB exec people want to unmute and ask a question, that works as well.
I have one quick question for Harish. And first of all, I want to say I really applaud you, your team, for listening to the community about closing out the project. It's never an easy thing to do, but I think you guys did a fabulous job of talking with the community, understanding the needs, and getting to the right decision. And even better, taking all those lessons learned and applying it to the next one. So really well done. And then also, I know our chapters are doing this, but I love that we're figuring out how to utilize technology a little bit better when you can't physically be there. So great. But my question is, because this comes up a lot. So you guys managed to secure class credit. And I just would like to hear a little bit about what the process was to go through and actually get that type of recognition for the work that you do.
Yeah, so I think honestly that would be, you know, a huge testament to the EPICS program at Purdue. I think we're lucky that we have a program that fits EWB's mission so well. EPICS is their whole focus is on service-based learning, and it's on professional development. So they encourage young students, freshman students, to enroll in these programs and basically as a blank slate learn what it's like to design for a real stakeholder. So a lot of their projects are smaller scale, you know, in the community, like an individual stakeholder is in need of a certain thing. You know, some of these are, you know, for example, it was a device for a wheelchair, and the ability for students to not only be able to feel like they're invested in that so much and to meet the stakeholders and understand what it's like to design for someone, but they have so much support because it's a course model where you have teaching assistants and professors in a dedicated lab room. It was really set up for us to just go in and explain what we do. And you know, it's a testament to Professor Oakes, who is a, you know, I don't know, Jackie, if you know Professor Oakes, but he's a character. I will tell you, he's a character. He's one of the most driven people, and he was super on board with us being part of that program. And I guess in summary, it was I would say it's a lot of luck, might not be the word, but we got really lucky that a program existed for us to partner with. And the class credit is a super effective way of keeping everyone accountable, because it's not too much that it drives people away, but it's enough that you not only feel responsible to the stakeholders, and the vast majority of people are, I would say all of our members are here because they want to support, you know, a community in need. But it's in those little moments when things get a little too tough for people, a lot of exams, really busy schedule, and it's just a little bit of an extra push to make sure that people are getting all their work done. And I think it's one of the most effective ways of accountability that we have. Nabil, I'll touch a little more. I'll touch a little more on the new member process, just because it's in that same vein of accountability. I think going through a whole semester, if it's done right, gets people so excited about what we do, and so invested, and they meet so many people throughout a whole semester of orientation that they're ready to jump in by the end of it. They're, you know, they'll leave at the end of that semester excited for the new one to come, because they get to start working on a real team and applying everything they learned, and all the people that they met are going to be, you know, at all their meetings. And that's an excitement. It's sort of a buildup. You build up not only their knowledge, but their excitement to get started. And we found that it encouraged people to stick around. And the combination of EPICS and the new member team has definitely been really effective for us.
I'll just say Bill Oakes is on the board of directors as the faculty leadership representative. So it's fabulous. His voice gets built into the organization strategy, and encourage those faculty members from University of Cincinnati if you're interested in getting engaged. We've got plenty of room for you. So yeah, thanks for the call out for that. I'll let him know. I do have one more. I promise not to hog with all the questions, but I do have one. Nabil, I loved how your group is measuring success from the impact of students. That's something when we talk later tonight, and I share, we're really looking at our strategic plan and kind of trying to come up with those right metrics for measuring success. So I just really applaud you guys. That's phenomenal work. Also saw when you talk about your communities, you're measuring the quantity of water. I was reading through the work you guys are doing. I also had heard or had seen that as you seek to expand your project work, you're really looking at quality. I'm just curious, when you think about the project work that you do, how are you thinking about measuring success or impact? Are there other kind of metrics that you're looking at? And this can be open to Purdue too.
Yeah, so when it comes to building our kind of repertoire of the communities, that we originally in our community agreements, we set up to receive monthly water reports. So it's basically the first page is asking how many people have used the water. Are there kind of like how many people are in the water committee, where are the initial revenues and expenses that the water committee has. So obviously when it comes to sustainability, we want a system that the community can take hold of, that it works economically from a business standpoint, that they can make enough money to pay for people to maintain the system, pay for people to run the system. And then we also get water reports for them. So that's how we know the quantities, just because once a month we get a report and it says they use this many at this, they use this much water at this much tap, and then gives us resources to kind of look like, okay, so this is how much water they're selling. This is how much they should be selling it for. This is how much they should be making, and kind of looking at stuff like that. We usually we're obviously, as engineers, we recognize that our role in the community is that we're engineers, not politicians and stuff like that. So it's kind of something that we keep trying to balance, and that kind of what we rely on VLOP and SHED for. So VLOP, when they first started these communities back in 2006, so before we got involved, they helped the community set up water committees, health committees, life committees, and then I might be missing one, kind of addressing different areas of the community needs. So it's kind of good because we have EWB-UC running stuff for both us and from VLOP. So he's working on medical brigade missions. He's working on school lunches for kids and stuff like that. So we're able to kind of get more qualitative measurements from that. So EWB-UC is able to be like, at this water committee meeting, this is kind of what I was feeling. This is the feedback we're getting from the community. And then obviously from the qualitative standpoint, that's kind of where we're looking at how's the system working from a numbers standpoint. So how are they making money? How are they selling water? Is the system working as a whole? When we want to step back in 2 or 3 years time, how do we want to step back? And also, Catherine, if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, I think a really big indicator of our success is when the communities take extra steps to get involved. So for example, in Niamboga right now, they've completely designed and planned for building a little kiosk by the main taps and borehole. So on our water reports, we just get a little note saying, oh, they just ordered all the brick for it and they're getting ready to build it. So it's really neat to see the communities kind of build their own projects next to ours, and then also be able to handle even some of the bigger issues. So issues with solar panels going out or replacing a pump just totally on their own. So I think that's always really cool to see, and gives us confidence that we can, step back when we do, and they'll be able to keep maintaining and running the system for years to come.
That's awesome. I really appreciate, it's the true partnership. And I just, again, I applaud you guys. Really well done.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And then of course, all office goes to our partners, and just having an amazing local partner with VLOP, and then also an amazing NGO like SHED, and then also amazing mentors like Mark, who's kind of been both with VLOP and both with us, to kind of help support us in this longer term, more support over many years, and especially these past 2 years when we're able to travel. They've been invaluable. And then, yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to speak up about anything at all. Then thank you, Dean Albrecht. It was nice for you to hop on. I think she just left beforehand, but.
I'm also with Jackie here at EWB-USA headquarters. So hi, my name is Maggie. I'll be assisting with the presentation later as well. But I did want to just say it's been really interesting learning about your guys' college experiences. I was an Ohio State grad, also part of the Ohio State Engineers Without Borders program. So it's really cool to see what our neighbors were doing, because I feel like we were maybe a little disconnected. I'm excited to see you guys being more connected. I guess I'm always curious to hear what people have to say, but especially like some of the older people who have been through most of your college experience with EWB, like what is like the biggest takeaway you've gotten from EWB, or like the best lesson learned, or something, try and fit it in a little short thing, but I'd love to hear the best part of being a part of EWB.
I guess I can start. Top of my mind is just the ability to, I think I learned how to care a lot about a project and what that actually means. I don't think in the past I might have thought that I had cared a lot about what I was doing, throughout high school, for example, but I found it like a completely different level of attachment and passion about the work that we do as, EWB Purdue. And to me, that meant the ability to manage my time and push myself to do higher level things in the organization, and eventually, become treasurer. And I want to stick around for the rest of my college experience. And I think learning what it means to like put a lot of time and effort and energy into an organization and a project is now something that I want to find in a career. And I didn't really know what that felt like before. And it definitely changed the way I'm sort of looking at my own future individually. So I really love that.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can add to that too. So my name's Ian. I'm a senior here at UC-EWB. But my big takeaway, just kind of, I've been in this now for 5 years in this organization. And the big thing that I've taken away from it is that this is really a cooperative relationship with the communities. So, it serves us in that we can practice our engineering skills, right? But we're not just going to these communities and plopping down a tank and calling it quits. It's really been rewarding seeing how, over the course of these 5 years, growing relationships with some of the same leaders in these communities, and actually to some extent getting to know the individuals we're communicating with. And then I've been fortunate enough to travel over there a couple of years ago to Tanzania, and then, meeting these people that we formed connections with. So just the cooperative nature of the organization and how we're really trying to work together with the community to help them succeed.
Some common themes, but also it's awesome to hear learnings. Does anyone else have anything to add? I love to hear it. So.
Well, yeah, I'll just go ahead and say from my perspective, like coming in as a freshman in engineering, I really had no idea what engineering was. I kind of felt like, oh, like I'll go do some CAD drawings and then I'll call it quits. But then kind of being part of the organization, it kind of showed me what's all involved when it comes to, like Ian said, like cooperating with the community. But it's just kind of like engineering is like part of what we do is a lot of talking and like understanding what the problem is, most importantly, before we actually just go put something in CAD and be like, all right, we're just going to ship it out, and then like they'll have a fun time building it. And also kind of from like the operations side, like how do we get funding to build these projects? How do we establish new connections to like build these projects? Kind of like all the support and behind the scenes stuff that needs to happen in order for us to go ahead and build something. It's pretty awe-inspiring. I had no idea when I was a freshman all the moving parts that need to be that are in place that need to be happening in order for us to go put a tank in Tanzania. I thought it was a big problem beforehand, but like I didn't realize the scope of all the little moving parts and all the little things that like go into engineering a project, especially gave me a really good insight before I first started my co-ops, kind of like oh, like a salesman gives me a quote, like to design it, but it's also like, what's the customer asking for? Like, what's the real problem we're trying to address? And kind of going from the start to finish of the engineering process, not just, oh, here I am at my computer, let me do some Excel calculations and call it quits.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is really nice to hear. And I could totally agree with everything you guys just said. So thank you.
So this is Jim Tappel. I'm the faculty advisor for these fine young students. And one comment that I'd like to make, and that is, the students are really seeing the efforts of their engineering skills, but then you solve one engineering problem, and then there's all these other issues that are like non-engineering related all of a sudden pop up. And there was some reference to like the water reports and the infrastructure that has to change within the community. And so you change one thing over here, but then it has this domino effect that is not technical, but it's social and economic and all of those changes that are going on. And it's been difficult, but learning opportunities to kind of watch some of these communities struggle. Hey, now they've got water, but no one's paying for it. No one's filling out the reports. And so the engineers, the EWB students are kind of saying, all right, you fix one thing, but that doesn't mean the problem's solved. It just kind of, it's kind of like whack-a-mole, if you will. Other things kind of crop up. And so, and it has been mentioned several times, and that is, these projects are way more than just technical engineering solutions. And not only is it real, but the students are getting exposed to the complexity of development. And so I just wanted to highlight that, and it's kind of happening in real time. And unfortunately, during this COVID phase, where we are very thankful for the partnership with Village Life and Shed in Tanzania. And without those boots on the ground, the engineering students back at UC would not be as well off because we've got a quite dedicated group working with those communities day in and day out. So just a comment and an observation. So thanks.
Well, your experience is absolutely invaluable, and I have to say, what I love also is hearing about partnerships over and over. The partners that you formed locally, obviously are surrounded in Cincinnati, but then even on the ground, that's phenomenal. So we've heard travel a few times, and we will be addressing that very shortly. We're kind of finalizing the whole situation right now, but let me just say, I think it's going to be very positive for the organization and for all of you. So I don't want to say anything too definitive yet, but we understand that you've got a limited window to make plans, and we are going to meet what you need to know within that window. Just look for that. It's coming out very soon. And that probably brought up a whole bunch of questions. So if you have them, go ahead and ask.
I don't even know what questions I have, but that's.
Jackie's just alluding that there's people who are going to communicate more eloquently anything that we would be able to say. And they are going to field your questions and be able to they'll have resources for you guys. But she's saying it's good news. So, but yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's okay.
No, I have nothing. I am now looking forward to that. So I appreciate the heads up. My team that I'm meeting with in a couple hours will be excited to know there might be positive news ahead. So thanks.
Yeah, I think that goes through the same at UC. I'm pretty sure every single person I talk to, they always ask, oh, so like you've been in Tanzania, right? Like, tell me about her. Like, all right, so like, when can I go? And I'm like, that's a great question. I'm waiting to find out more. So as an organization, we're really pumped about it. And it's also, kind of like traveling is as like an organization is great because we get like all those engineering experiences as well, but also going back to the student impact, being able to travel and see the work in person, talking to communities in person, it's kind of an invaluable engineering experience. I know for a fact that like when I traveled and I came back, the way I viewed all these problems, all these projects, all these and everything going on completely different. So it's just a great learning experience for students. And it's also awesome we can actually go and finally see, go knock on some tanks, make sure they're all still there, and I don't know, make sure water is still working, which we're pretty confident it is, but it's nice to have that visual indicator.
Yeah, I would just like to build on what Jim was saying and what the students from UC are contributing. These guys, these students are all my heroes for sure. And even though we haven't been in our communities for coming up on 2 years now, they continue to crank out engineering designs for hand washing stations and ways to communicate with the community. And what we've been seeing, if there's anything good to be said for COVID, is that since the communities are not seeing us return every 4 to 6 months or whatever, they're realizing that they have to take on more responsibility, make their own repairs. We're all having to adjust our roles to keep everything moving forward. And I'm just amazed at what the students have been able to produce and generate, during this period when they haven't been able to travel. So again, you guys are my heroes.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, every meeting I have with prospective donors, that's my lead off. And it shows in the numbers and the metrics, the number of projects that we're getting done, the number of people that are positively impact. We're continuing the work, and by we I mean you. It's really incredibly impressive, and it's really resonating with the donors too. So, of course, it's all about the communities, but yeah, thank you. It's really amazing to see the resiliency in all the volunteers. And the other thing, like you just said, Mark, it is great to see that we are learning new things, both from the community perspective and our organization's perspective. So, you're my heroes too. I'll second that.
I have a quick question that just came up in my mind. Maybe for everyone, maybe for UC. One thing that we've been looking at is a more effective way to go about our business development team and articulating the value of learning how to market an engineering project and write grants and receive funding, and how important that is. Even if you're an engineering student, we sort of struggle with finding a lot of driven students who want to do that, just because it's in sort of a middle ground of not quite technical engineering work and not quite traditional, business work. Is there an effective strategy that you guys have or are thinking about? I know your team's new, but of recruiting people who are really interested in that specific element of this project?
Yeah, sorry, all of us are in the same room, and all of us are kind of like, we don't really have any good solid advice, because it's something that we're definitely, of course, something we struggle with as well. We've had fundraising and grant writing committees in the past, and then of course, we'll go to like a projects meeting, there'll be like 15 people there, all super like excited and like going on. Then like you walk into the grant writing committee room and it's just like 4 people, but it's the 4 people who actually fully understand like this is what needs to go on in order to support the projects, which is kind of the biggest sales pitch. And then right now, when it comes to grant writing and kind of like that fundraising side of things, we're really pushing like, we're just basically going up to a bunch of business students and like, hey, like you should join. Like now we have like an accounting major in the group, and the accounting major is like, all right, show me your books. And like, we show her our books and she's like, all right, cool. I want to fix this for you. So, which is great. I love it. And it's also pretty cool. So UC has a pretty cool program called Ascend. So it's basically, you can graduate with your bachelor's and your master's at the same time. So right now I'm an environmental engineering student, but I'm also hoping to graduate with my MBA at the same time. We have, I think it was like 6 people on our exec board that are in the same program. So we're kind of lucky in the sense that UC has that program because we're able to have students both taking finance classes, like MBA classes. So like I took an accounting class and I'm like, all right, I'm curious what our books look like. Then I looked at it, I'm like, okay, there's some things to work on. So we're lucky because we have students that are kind of involved in both and kind of have that general knowledge. But when it comes to advice for other chapters, we're still figuring it out. So we can get back to you in like a couple months, I guess, or we'll see. But it's very much like we keep knocking on doors and we keep trying stuff, but once we find something that clicks, we'll be sure to get you guys involved and I don't know, maybe publish a paper somewhere because it's not easy.
Yeah, as treasurer, that's like a lot of what I do more day to day, week to week. And just kind of thinking about like the next couple of semesters and figuring out like a sustainable way to know that we'll have people interested in doing that. You know, even if it's a small team, to know that whoever's on the team is like actually into it is something we're still trying to nail down. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think our best advice with that is it's kind of like we have a treasurer, but it's like our treasurer transition document. It's like 20 pages and it's like kind of write everything down. They can just control F in the document and see different things. Or like as an EWB chapter, it's kind of like we have like our account in Shed and like in Tanzania where we keep all our shillings, and like we also have a university account, like an EWB-USA like account. So it's just like a lot of different things going on. And like as treasurer for EWB Purdue, I bet you like also like know like it's very complicated because there's just so many like little things to keep track of. So it's also something our treasurer, I don't know, it's like they kind of get like a 20-page document thrown at them, but it's also just having everything down in one document that like you can control up. It's really helped us with like our sustainability of like keeping our finances in order from semester to semester and kind of tracking stuff that way. Just, I mean, same in engineering, just write absolutely everything down and then hopefully people can search and find it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just out of
And I would just like
curiosity.
to, go.
I'll flip it right over you. I was going to say, we have resources. I'm going to let Maggie talk about that. But real quick, have you tried communication majors? And I say that because it is a real career, like people graduate and become grant writers. And we know because we've tried to recruit them and they're in high demand. But just curious if that has resonated with anybody in communications.
That's a good suggestion. One thing we have looked at is a new major that Purdue made called Integrated Business and Engineering. And that's like our big push for the next couple of weeks to recruit for the fall. But communications is definitely a good alley to go down as well. That makes sense.
Yeah, coming from UC, I don't think the way we should get business students is that we kind of stumble across them when we rope them in. I don't think we stumbled across the communications major yet, but it's also something that we are probably going to start reaching out to. And then I think the business school more involved. They have a lot of really cool like entrepreneurship programs and stuff like that we're hoping to get some freshmen and pull them into EWB and kind of suck them into the engineering college as well a little bit.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that I think you guys are doing a first great step, which is connecting with other EWB chapters. I'm always like thoroughly impressed with the ingenuity that comes from other chapters. I think you guys are doing really awesome work that should be shared with other chapters, but also like you could probably learn like a thing or two. Maybe one chapter is more successful at recruiting some non-engineering majors comparatively. But I will also say, like on the flip side, it's I know your schools tend to like skew pretty heavy on the engineering side of like large universities. So I wouldn't like feel too bad that you are having trouble recruiting non-engineers for Engineers Without Borders. The name really deters a lot of people, and I totally understand that. I think that's something we've grappled with for a long time. I know they were kind of throwing around the idea of what if we changed it to Engineering Without Borders, would that welcome more people? So it's something we think about for our chapters, because I think you guys do see more success with the exchange of or the growth of different majors and just different kind of outlooks. I feel like a lot of people integrate public health. So I'm excited that you guys have a nursing major. I heard that. So that's really important to us. So.
Yeah, I think we joke about the same thing when it comes to career fairs. Like if we're like ever in front of like business college, you're like, all right, just cover like the engineering part up and just put like other people as well, or It's kind of a running joke we have, especially when I go and give presentations to, like last semester, I gave a presentation to a class called How to Change the World. And then in there, I was like, just ignore the name for a second because we're going to talk about like our community partnerships and stuff like that. So like, it was a bunch of like education and public health majors. And I was just kind of like, ignore engineering for a second. Let's like talk about like the partnerships and like, especially with our projects, like the long-term partnerships we have, which is kind of one of the greatest assets we have as an organization that we've been involved in Niambogo for 8-9 years. I forget when we first started talking. So a super long time, but it's also kind of like we've been growing with the community as they grow their own infrastructure. So it's kind of really awesome to see, especially my 4 years here at UC, like looking at how the, like for our project, for example, like when I first came here, it was like, we had like 2 water reports from them. It was kind of a mess. Then once like COVID kind of hit, we took a step back. And what Mark was saying is like, the communities were like, okay, like we got to do it on our own. Like they're not coming. So we talked to them about the communities. We had to work through some like political issues, some addendums to community agreements, but now I don't think we've been missing a water report for the past 7 or 8 months. So it's just been awesome kind of seeing like over like the long-term span of like, okay, like the infrastructure in the community is also growing along with us. So it's probably one of the coolest things I've seen, like being part of here, just like, I don't know, just the growth as a whole and just like, oh, the system's working. Like what I did my freshman year is still pumping out water and it's still kicking butt. So really cool to see.
So one thing I will mention is we do have a fundraising team at headquarters, and we do have a person who's kind of got a lot of experience in kind of the grant aspect. So there are tools out there, and you might already be familiar with that. If not, reach out to us, and once we'll send you those kind of links. But maybe a question for all of you, like, is there anything from headquarters that you feel could be more helpful in what you're going through? And I'll say maybe from a COVID, trying to operate in sort of a no travel COVID environment, and then maybe from a, post once we get a little bit back to normal with travel environment.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously kind of money at the end of the day. So it costs a lot for students to be able to travel. And it's kind of the biggest problem for our organization is that we want to get travel costs down, but right now it costs $2,500 before COVID. Who knows now? We'll figure that out whenever we plan our next trip. But yeah, we'll figure it out. All of us are just nodding our heads. So it's a big ask for a college student because that can knock off a lot of student loan debt. So it just makes it really hard for us to send people over. Only a few people are actually able to go. So it makes it hard to have a project team going. And then EWB-USA 2.0 is awesome, but it's still, we're as a chapter, like our biggest fundraising goal is like, all right, how can we make travel cheaper? How can we make stuff more effective? And like, I think we're getting there. I think the next time we travel, we're looking at like, how much are we bringing in each year? How much has that been increasing? Kind of like seeing what's sustainable for our organization so we don't go broke either. So like, we're looking at knocking off like another $500, but it's still a challenge. So like, we're super excited with EWB-USA 2.0 and like all that came out. So it's just something that we're currently working towards. And then also, even if it's not just like straight up money, just kind of like more like fundraising connections, more like just more resources on that front. I know we have a lot of like information on Volunteer Village, but like how to fundraise and stuff like that, but maybe getting like more connections or like more easily being like, here are like some interested companies, like go ahead, go talk to them, go show what you're doing, like kind of more processes and kind of like showing us just like kind of more resources and like how to teach us that, how to teach new students that, but also like kind of like how to keep that going down the line, I guess.
Okay, super helpful. And our development director, he's been with us for a year, just going on a year. He's super interested and excited about doing more and helping more. So Maggie and I, we've gotten this feedback quite a bit and over the last couple of weeks, and we'll, I don't know, Maggie, if there's anything you want to add right now, but we can connect back in with Scott and, just kind of share the feedback and talk about what options we have. Certainly understand the concern, and it was, and I'll say it was a disappointment. For those that are not aware, we tried to adjust our funding model. And what I loved about hearing about your whole presentation is that you guys do have that experience about what it means to run a business, and financials are, a critical component of that. Having that business plan and making sure plans are sustainable. And I'll just say, as an organization, COVID hit. I don't think any of us, well, obviously none of us had ever expected something like that, but it was a really big impact for the organization. So we definitely had to make steps to ensure that we would be sustainable going forward. And we made huge progress over the last 2 years and feel really good about it, but it's still a journey. We're still coming out of it. So there, no easy answers right away, but we'll talk with Scott and try to get some more information back to you guys.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think that's kind of like the biggest problem. Like, we understand like it's a very large and complex problem because you also have like a lot of chapters and stuff like that. So it's also like a problem that we're working with. And then I don't know, we've been beating our heads against the wall at it for a while now too. So we're still on like our little like micro scale, still working it out. So like obviously we don't really expect like EWB-USA to like come out with all the answers right away, but I think all of us understand it's very much a learning process and very much, yeah, I think COVID kind of sucked for everyone. So we get that as well.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about it more at the presentation, and I think we'll encourage you guys to ask more questions. But there are resources available right now on our website on Volunteer Village. I found them to be good starting points, especially the fundraising quick start guide. I kind of wish that they were around when I was president, but we released them, I think, well, I guess maybe right at my end of 2020. So they're still kind of new resources. I think we're always looking for more input from you guys, and we are always asking other chapters, like I said. And I will, like I said, I'll talk more about it at the presentation, and then hopefully those are the big picture things. And then when we get down to nitty gritty micro stuff, like maybe I can connect you guys with Scott and on more of your specifics, because I know we can't do that with every chapter we have. But I guess you guys got in contact with Jackie, so we'll put you at the front of the line. So
that sounds great to us. So thank you. Okay, well, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the room of people and talking, seeing if they have any more questions. I think we're pretty good on questions. Oh, Magnus, you have something? All right, 1 second.
Yeah, so I have a question for, and this can be for Harish or Mr. O'Brien or Ms. Miles. We've talked a lot about the recruiting process, and I think that's currently one of the biggest pushes or the biggest problems that I think we're facing. So I was curious, I know, what would your recruitment pitch be? So if you stood at a career fair and a student came up and you had to convince them to join, and this can be an engineer, this can be a business student, or from whatever branch, but what would your pitch be? What would be the key points you'd want to hit in order to convince them to join EWB?
So I think one of the most effective ways we go about it is you start off with more of a professional development angle and combine that with like a the benefits of a relatively social organization that has outside events as well. And I think that's our in to a lot of people, is the ability to have a lot of professional development, and it's fun. And I think we make sure that we present it as genuinely fun, because honestly most of us believe it, and all my best friends are in this club. So I would say that's what we start with. And then I think going into what the organization actually does, like, is more of something we talk about after we grab people in, because I think a lot of people have a lot of organizations are able to say that they help people, and it's not as, at least what we've found on our campus, is it's not as much of a distinguishing factor as we might have hoped. But I think the experience for the student, potentially the ability to travel, things like that, is what has drawn people in before they learn about like all the value of being partnered with the community and learning about all that. it's more of the student experience that we draw people in with.
I'm gonna let Maggie answer this next because I've heard her share
She's heard
this.
me say this kind of stuff a lot. So she also knows what I'm going to say, because we did receive this question beforehand. So thank you again for sending those, because that makes it a lot easier for us to answer these, because we can think about it a little bit. But I think I already heard some really great pitches, like in my first question, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes ago, where I asked you guys, like, what was the biggest impact? What was, like your biggest learning? I mean, you guys are super awesome people, I can already tell. And you guys have a lot of cool experience, a lot of really good, valuable experience. Think about why you're involved. Why are you here? Why are you spending, your Tuesday afternoon, with us and talking with us? And what got you to get here? What got you to stay? I mean, a lot of that stuff's going to resonate with other people. The other thing, and I think this is something that HQ is still working on a lot, is communication. I think that's a huge, huge part of this. Is I think once people are aware of what you do, what your mission is, how the club works, they're like, oh, cool, let me get involved. I didn't know this is what you did. But I feel like a lot of people don't actually know what you do, or they just hear engineers and they're like, okay, no, I can't be an engineer. But a lot of people could really help you guys get your work done and can engineer per se, without an engineering degree. I mean, that's what you guys are doing right now before you even graduate. So I think those are two big things that I would just right off the bat leave you with, is that you are your biggest sales pitch, all of you guys being here, committing your time, doing this awesome work. I mean, obviously they'll care about the community, but I found that they'll care more about the community because of your community there at the chapter level, and then also as they get involved. But the initial involvement is like, they want to look at you guys and they're like, wow, I want to be that person. That is a really good way of getting people on board. So
that was much more polished than my answer, but I
had time to think about it. So I'm cheating.
That's, yeah,
Jackie, did I cover everything, Jackie? Is there anything you wanted to add?
That's fabulous. And Harish kind of led with, they're also interested in professional, Maggie got to the heart of it. But if there is a value proposition about professional development, maybe one of the things you can kind of emphasize too is our corporate partners. There's a lot of companies that, support this organization because what they realize is, I've heard this from CEOs of companies, when they get a student that has been through EWB, they already know that they can do the job. They've already proven it. They've successfully operated in some of the most complex, challenging environments around the world. And they persevered through every single challenge that was put in front of them to do some amazing work. So those are, if you need to focus on that angle too, there's lots of good information out there to kind of support that aspect.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think another pretty common question that we had that is kind of more fitted for this meeting than the whole general body meeting. So a lot of us are having questions on kind of how the role of EWB chapters are changing in local communities now. So kind of what Mark was saying earlier, it's kind of like we weren't there boots on the ground all the time, and kind of left it more to the community to kind of pick up the slack of day-to-day operation, fixing leaks, doing maintenance themselves. And then with the inclusion of, I think, the Uganda office, Tanzania, so all of our projects are scheduled to be incorporated in either March or April and stuff like that. So all of us are having questions on kind of what do you personally think the changing landscape at UWB is do we still need chapters to keep traveling as much when we have these in-country partners and stuff like that? How do kind of how our role, how does basically how all the roles changing pre-COVID, post-COVID, and also kind of with all the new stakeholders involved, with an entirely new stakeholder of the in-country office getting involved as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer it at a super high level, and then I'll let Maggie go through the details. But yes, we still need chapters. When this whole kind of shift happened through the prior 2015 strategic plan, where there was a recognition that having local expertise and people on the ground can help facilitate these projects. So what we're doing, you currently work with a project engineer out of Denver, out of headquarters in Denver. And the thought is, why wouldn't we have these engineering resources sit closer to the communities and ground so they understand what more of the challenges are. So your relationship with them is going to be very similar with the person you work with right now out of Denver. And Maggie, you want to expand on that and from a chapter perspective, but we need chapters. Chapters are not changing. It's going to feel very much the same experience you have.
Yeah, I think Jackie really covered the high level of it. And then also we did prepare some of the slide deck to cover that, but I'm glad we'll get like a big portion of it out right now. But yeah, I mean, you guys work, actually both of your teams work with Eric, which also was my PE that I worked with. So I love Eric. He's really, really intelligent. But so are our PEs in Africa and at our Uganda, soon to be East Africa office. And the other thing that they know is, especially like that East Africa, the landscape governmentally wise is really changing, especially when it comes to like what you'll need when you build and stuff like that. As they become more modern, I think there's going to be more requirements, more expectations. We do see the need growing stronger to have more in-country relations where we work. And so we're just trying to make that easier for you guys. That's not to say that that's going to be instead of who you work with contracting wise to build or who you work with NGO wise. It's really just supposed to support. So, I mean, just imagine what the support you get from Eric would now kind of be transferred to someone in East Africa. And that's pretty much the main difference. It's really just to help people. It just seems kind of scary because I know we've been moving towards a huge remote kind of push. And I don't think we should ignore the fact that this has worked for your chapter, for other chapters. We've seen a lot of our projects still move forward during these past 2 years. So, I mean, we're not going to pretend that that's just not more efficient for some of these things. But I don't think it's a replacement for travel. I just think that now we, as engineers, can evaluate the pros and cons of both, can use a hybrid version. We were doing remote implementations before COVID, but I want to say it was maybe 20% or less of our projects. So it wasn't that we weren't doing it already, but now it's obviously at a larger scale. And I think more people are willing to accept that. I mean, there's, it's more efficient for the project. It's less emissions carbon wise, just traveling less. And then also it saves you guys money. So I don't think we'll ever go back to no remote implementation, but I think it's balanced.
Yeah, and let me just say, like, totally clear, the intention is not for the region office or the country office to do the project work, right? That's not at all the direction we're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone here is pretty stoked about it. Just kind of having an engineer that really understands like the community, really understands the area, like with like such a high level of expertise, just kind of like, or even them just being like, oh, like I know a good contractor, like I'll like give you like their numbers, stuff like that, or like, oh, I have good recommendations for like suppliers in the area. So like, I mean, it's definitely something like we have great suppliers and we've had some mixed experiences when it comes to contractors over there. So it'll be awesome. Like we're excited about it. We're pumped about it. Just to have someone like on the ground that's like more easily able to kind of like support in that nature as well. Just like, oh, like reach out to this company, reach out to this connection, because it's also something that's really hard for us as students to do, trying to find a contractor that's halfway across the world that we can know and we trust to actually execute some like problems and projects as well. So I think we're pretty excited about it. All right, awesome. I think those are all the questions we have right now before the general body meeting at 6. And then I think we'll have a lot more people hop on then, but I mean, you never know. Then we're really excited to hear that. So does anyone else have any closing thoughts from the room? Oh yeah, I think everyone here is saying thank you. So like we're really pumped to have you come talk to our chapter. Like your insight's invaluable, and like thank you to Maggie as well. Like we're all very appreciative of what you do and very appreciative of everyone who helps out. And then just, yeah, thank you for everything.
Thank you guys. I like I said, I've got now 4 pages of notes here. So we're gonna share all these best practice things you guys are doing. So you're what makes, you're what makes it all work. So thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, and we would definitely appreciate you guys passing along your presentations. And I would also like really on the side of the UC program, I'd love to see more if you have any more information on that survey you did with your students. I think that was super interesting and kind of unique from the chapter perspective, because we've tried to measure it on the HQ perspective. So I'd love to just, if you can send that away, that'd be really helpful. So thank you.
I can send you everything from it. Everything was anonymous, so I'll just send you the link.
Great, thanks.
Awesome. And then I think we'll see everyone again at 6 o'clock. And then, yeah, thank you for hopping on. And then Harish, I think I sent you the link if the Purdue chapter still wants to hop on at 6, but if I didn't, just go ahead and shoot me an email and I'll pass it along to you as well.
Yeah, we've got the link sent out to our whole chapter. So a lot of our teams, I think, meet at a similar time, but hopefully some of them are gonna hop on there, and good luck with that. I just want to say thanks everyone. Great meeting you, Nabil, and everyone else on the team. Jackie and Maggie, thanks so much for all your help. It was fun to present, and I enjoyed the discussion we've just had. So thanks.
Thank you.